Hey guys, I appreciate y'all taking the time to watch this video as always. If you haven't already, I would appreciate it also if you would please subscribe to the channel below. Hit the notification bell. You know how to do it. You know what happens. If you get notifications, so when I put up any new videos, you'll get a notification about that, and you won't have to worry about coming back and forgetting like I do. And so what I wanted to do here briefly, I should say, that's a relative term, especially if you've seen some of my other videos. A video that sort of summarizes what I made in my previous video about my Crohn's disease and my experiences with that. If you recognize the previous video I made was about 1 hour and 5 minutes long, so if you're willing to suffer through that and risk the temptation of gouging out an eyeball in the process of waiting through that to the end, it's there for you to view. This video, for the sake of brevity, is going to be, shorter and basically summarizing my whole process or the whole experience I've been through in the last few years. And so many of you may have noticed already that in some of my posts I made on social media, you'll see that I've had some health issues. I've been facing some weight loss. You have seen maybe video or pictures of me, or even videos of me looking maybe a little bit leaner than normal. Some of my older pictures from last year, I looked sickly. And that's because I have come down with Crohn's disease. I was officially diagnosed in June of last year. And what had happened was, to kind of put it from the get-go, I think that I initially started having symptoms in the fall of 2015. I was in nursing school. I remember the exact day when it happened that I noticed an alteration in my bowel habits. It was a clinical day for me, my pediatrics rotation. Some of my nursing comrades will know right away a pediatrics rotation will be very stressful. I don't know if it was because of that. I'm guessing it was. But I remember being in a clinical that day, and I had to go to the bathroom, and things weren't like normal. No pain, but just not usual. It was totally tolerable, though. And so I just figured maybe I'm just getting older. Sometimes, our bodies start breaking down just a little bit here, a little bit there. And I thought maybe just a sign of, things aren't just quite as tight and sharp as they used to be. And so anyways, I went on and for about 2 years, well, about 3 years almost, I continued going to work, went to school, went to the gym and all that, had no problems maintaining weight. Like always, those of you who knew me a few years ago, or actually within the last year and a half, knew that I was about 320. I was into weight training and I did a lot of strength training as well. And I was 320. I had a lot of muscle to me. I wasn't just, ripped 320, but I had a lot of muscle density and muscle mass. And that's, largely why I was over 300 pounds. And then as those 3 years went by, fall of 2015 all the way till fall of 2018, those bowel habits started getting, they got slowly but surely just a little bit more out of hand, if you would. And there were times where I started noticing a little bit more urgency towards the latter part of 2018. Whenever I felt like a bowel movement was coming, didn't have as much time as I used to before. Never had any incontinency problems or anything like that. But I just knew I had to make it sooner than later if I was going to make it to the bathroom at all. But what happened was, in November of 2018, I developed a perianal abscess, and I think that was secondary to an anal fissure, which that was extremely, extremely painful, very painful. And if any of you have ever had that before, look at my other video. I get more into detail on that. That's an extremely painful experience, and nobody invites that kind of condition. So either way, I got one, and it's fine now. But the abscess developed, I believe, secondary to that, and that abscess required surgery. And what had happened was the surgery, again, go look at my previous video. I give the details of all the ER trips I had made in December and January of 2018, 2019. It was a mess. But what had happened was basically is that when the colorectal surgeon, he had to perform surgery on me, and in the process of cutting, it triggered a flare in what I believe I already had Crohn's disease. I believe the Crohn's started showing symptoms in 2015, fall of 2015, like I said in the beginning of this video. I just don't think it was diagnosed at that point. It was not diagnosed because I didn't go to the doctor. I just thought, hey, getting older, bowel habits, right? And so I had those bowel habits, and I think what had happened was I had undiagnosed Crohn's disease, and now the surgery comes along, and that's the trigger mechanism that would trigger a flare. Because as soon as I had that surgery, and I was coming out of that surgery, which I actually ended up having 2 surgeries because that abscess, it basically, I had a second one that formed about a week and a half later from the other one healing up, and it was just, that happens. And so I had to get a second surgery, and that was January 4th of 2019. Then from that point on, and the healing process began, man, my body just blew up as far as, you know, the overall pain, the weight loss, the bleeding. It was tremendous, the most traumatic experience or life or event of my whole life. I mean, I don't even have to think about that. It is absolutely was. And my Crohn's disease, for those of you who, I have this pic, you have the I have the Google here pulled up, and as you can see, Crohn's kind of gives you a basic idea, but it's autoimmune. In other words, it's not a virus. It's not a bacterial infection of any sort. It's an autoimmune disease where the body fails to distinguish self from non-self. The immune system, the immune cells are unable to determine what cells are your body versus what cells are not your body. And therefore, because they lose the ability, or there's an identity fault, problem there, it begins to attack certain tissues of the body. Instead, thinking, of course, using an accommodative term there, thinking that those tissues are foreign tissues when they're actually not. They're part of your organs. And in my case, because Crohn's can affect anywhere from the mouth, the upper esophageal area, all the way down to the colon, the rectum, the anus there, all the way to the end, from end to end, anywhere in there. Ulcerative colitis, on the other hand, is primarily in the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, and the rectum, all the way down to the bottom. Let me see if I can get some pictures real quick here to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Well, we'll just borrow this one from now. Ulcerative colitis pretty much gets you right in this area here. This is the primary region for ulcerative colitis. Crohn's can be all up in here. Crohn's can be all the way like this here. Crohn's can be all in the GI system, anywhere from here all the way down to the bottom. And that's what I have. However, my issues are primarily in the primarily in the sigmoid colon, which is this part right here. Let me go back to this one a little bit better picture. The sigmoid colon, which is pretty much right here, as you can see, it brings basically where the descending colon comes over to the midline. Then you come to the rectum. And this is primarily where my symptoms were. A lot of swelling, bleeding when I had to go to the restroom. After I would go to the bathroom, this whole area would become inflamed from the muscular, the pelvic muscles there were involuntarily contracting, almost like a woman who's in labor. I wasn't giving birth, but it probably, I won't even try to make that comparison. But it was very, very, very painful. And after I would have a bowel movement, I would be sore for hours. Like hours. Couldn't take any NSAIDs at all. Ibuprofen, Motrin, to Advil, none of that, because those cause a rebound effect with Crohn's. You don't take any of those. I learned the hard way. And so what happened was I would have to go to the bathroom, and when I went to the bathroom, I'd have to lay down on my stomach on the bed. I'd have to lay prone, face down, for an extended period of time every time I went to the bathroom in order to provide some sort of a relief. It wasn't 100% relief, but it was the best thing I could do to make things feel as best as they could feel. And so this went on from like January after that surgery all the way until, as far as the severe pain, that went on all the way through May. And I mean, you're talking every single day, folks. Every time you have to have a bowel movement, this is what happens. This was your life. This was your experience. It was so horrible that when I would have a bowel movement, I would have to put a towel over my mouth because I was yelling out in pain so loud. I did not want my wife and daughter to hear me. Of course, they couldn't, you could hear me still. It just wasn't as loud, but it made them cry. It put them in tears. And, I would come out of the bathroom and I would immediately just, in a pitiful manner, just make my way to the bed and just collapse onto the bed and just be moaning in pain and just moaning and moaning and moaning loudly because it hurt so bad. It hurt so bad. And so what had happened was I got on, and during this process, this is January through May of 2019, but the first 3 months, about January, February, March, during that period, I lost 97 pounds in that 3-month period. So I went from 320 down to 223 pounds. And I was anemic. I was pale. You could tell. I wasn't so anemic that I needed a transfusion, but I was clinically anemic. And I was weak. I was, my clothes looked like they were hanging off of me. Now, 223, you're thinking, man, what does he mean clothes hang? But I'm tall. I'm 6'6". So at my height, 223 on my frame, I'm just not, it ain't cutting it. And it wasn't working. And so during that time, I just had to, this whole healing process has taken a long time. And Crohn's has been something that has caused me to really also realize, well, I'll get to that in just a minute, but going back to the whole process of the timeline there. So through May, June is when I went to my second GI doctor. The first one, not good. Went to go check the other video on that. I mentioned that in a more, and still in a brief way, but a little bit more than here. But June, I went to my GI doctor, the second one. He's been great. He laid out a plan to diagnose me right away. So that's when I actually got diagnosed. It was actually early June of last year. That's when he did lab work on me. He did blood work. He did a stool sample and also did an MRI. And that's how they found out. And that's how he nailed it that you had Crohn's. And so he put me on Stelara, which I'm on Stelara. I've been on that. I started July 15th of last year. It's a biologic medication, very, very expensive, $26,000 per injection, which is a 90 milligram, 1 milliliter shot in the subcutaneous in the belly, kind of like your insulin takers out there, your diabetics who shoot insulin into their fatty tissue. That's what I have to do every 8 weeks, every 56 days. Thankfully, I have health insurance and also a patient support program together help bring that $26,000 down to $5 for me. And I'm thankful to God for that, because this is what helps keep things suppressed. It doesn't always work for people. You've probably seen other medications like Humira. I'm allergic to that. I tried Humira in May of last year. Had hives on my scalp, sores on my throat. Had to cut that right away. First medicine I've ever discovered that I've been allergic to. Got on the Stelara, no problems with that. Slowly but surely, over time, the effects of the soreness and all that started to de-escalate. It takes time, though. It took me time. Here we are, a year later? It's July 10th. What today? July 10th. And so, we're looking at July 15th of last year. So I'm actually 5 days away from a year ago of starting Stelara. In that year process that I've been on it now, I just recently got to where when I have a bowel movement, I really don't feel anything now anymore. And I can go to the bathroom and come out and I'm like 99% okay. And it's just like really, really awesome. And I'm so thankful for that. And, but it took time though. It's not like you take Stelara and it works like Tylenol in a couple, 30 minutes or an hour, your headache's, down or gone. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. Like you'll take Stelara and you'll go by a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and you still feel the same. But you just keep taking it. And over several months, you start to see things coming down, trending down. And so that was one of the big challenges in all of this is, but going back to what I said a little bit ago, Crohn's is my first, chronic disease or chronic health issue I've ever had to face. And I have a whole new level of empathy or sympathy or empathy for people with chronic issues, health issues now, because I see how people have to deal with this every single day. I see how it can cause depression. I see how it can cause anger and frustration, a sense of despair, a loss of hope. I faced all of that last year when I thought that there was not going to be any end to the way I was feeling. When I was losing all that weight, I thought, man, is this ever going to stop? I didn't see any actual deadline set before me. And so as far as I knew, I said, is this going to be the rest of my life? I'm going to have to be like this every day and see my wife having to come out and, see me feeling like this and see me in pain. It's putting a stress on her. It's putting a stress on my daughter, my young girl, having to see her daddy like this. What a mess. What a mess. And I can see what people deal with now. But here I am now. And, I'm thankful to God. I'm thankful to my wife and daughter for their help, my doctors and physicians who have helped me, my family and my brethren in Christ who have been so supportive whenever I needed any help at all. And, like I said, last year I was 223. Now I'm back to 275, 272. And I've been actually hitting some dumbbells more now, hitting some weight again. I don't want to get too heavy now. I just don't want to be 300 pounds anymore anyway. So my goal is to sit right about where I am now, about 270 or 275, and just be healthy at this point. My diet, thankfully, I haven't had to have a super strict diet because, again, my issues are not up in my gut. They're not up in my stomach or my small bowel or anything like that, or my esophagus. Those folks, I think, they tend to be more the ones who have to have a very, very strict diet. My case is more or less, I have to be careful about the, my stool. I can't have like constipation, all that. That will be the big thing that would mess with me. So I make sure I take my fiber every day, keep things flowing, and I'm in good shape for the most part. And that's what I've kind of been dealing with for the last year and a half. And, anyone who's out there who sees this, I hope if you have any questions about this kind of thing, or if you have any questions about symptoms you're dealing with, I'd be more than happy to help you or talk to you about anything. But this has been quite an experience for me. And I wanted to put this video up here again. The more detailed one is on my channel there, so you can go back and look at that one if you want to have hear more of a thorough listing or thorough walkthrough of what I've been through in the last few years. So anyways, I'll just stop it there. And I appreciate you all taking the time again to watch this. And I hope it's helpful to people because it is very challenging. It can be very psychologically challenging. It was for me. And as well as physically. People think about medical diseases and they think purely on the physical level. They think, oh, the guy's got a problem with his body. They think, we tend to think physically because we can see the physical problem. We can see the lab results. We can see, anything that's before our eyes, that lets us think about the physical problems. But people who go through these physical health issues, the things that you don't see that are up here can be extremely burdensome, extremely challenging. And for some people, they're the weightier issue that they're dealing with. They're like, hey, I can deal with the body part. I wish I felt better. And I'm learning that, I already accepted that and acknowledged that to be a true scenario in many cases, but going through it now you have the experience that says, yes, I know exactly what people mean now when they say those things. Absolutely. It's very real. And we need to be mindful of people who have those kind of chronic problems. The things that you don't see, you may see a problem like a body that's not walking right, or a body that can't sit up or can't even stand up. But what you don't see is a mind that's broken because of it. And that can often be hard to detect. So be mindful of those people who go through these things. It can be very challenging. I'm thankful that I've gotten the health back that I have gotten back to this point. And that I can actually work a job now, which I am working. I'm able to get up during the day and go to the store, change the oil on my car the other day and go take care of the things I need to take care of, my ADLs, activities of daily living, right? I'm able to manage those things. I'm able to take care of myself again. So that helps. That's good, healthy for the mind there, right? Sure. And so anyways, long enough. This is supposed to be summary, but I'm getting further and further from that. So I will appreciate any comments, as I said, or questions. Please put them below, and I will talk to you all later. Have a good night.